The uncertain itinerary this Friday night as WestJet passengers race to rebook as a strike deadline looms.
I just want to go home. I don't want to be stuck here.
What the airline is offering passengers who want to cancel their trips. Deadly and sudden rush. Why tens of thousands of migrants tried to enter Europe through a tiny Spanish territory. Skepticism over a potential peace plan. The doubts over U.S. President Donald Trump's deal to disarm Hamas. Ransom notes released, the chilling messages sent to Nancy Guthrie's family months ago. Plus, goodbye grinder.
We've lost a dear friend.
The fond memories of BC's beloved grizzly bear.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Sarah McDonald.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. With less than 36 hours to go until WestJet flight attendants could walk off the job, the airline has started parking some of its planes. The federal government is not yet ready to intervene, urging the two sides to work out a deal at the bargaining table. But that doesn't ease the potential travel turbulence facing tens of thousands of passengers, some now scrambling to adjust their plans while not completely sure if they actually need to. Touria Izri met with some of those travelers now in limbo in Montreal. Touria.
Sarah, for thousands of WestJet passengers, this is not exactly what they would call a carefree long weekend. Not the note these Ariana Grande fans wanted to end on.
I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it on time or not.
They flew to Montreal for the pop star's concert and aren't sure when they'll be back home.
And I think it's unfortunate for both the employees and the passengers.
I just want to go home. I don't want to be stuck here.
Get home safe.
The Canadian Union of Public Employees and the airline have until Sunday to reach a deal. But WestJet is preparing for a possible strike, parking some of its Boeing 737s.
We are forced to work up to 35 hours a month unpaid.
One of the union's main sticking points is unpaid ground work.
Bosses never want to pay fair wage, so, and it's in their interest, but you got to collectively bargain.
The carrier says it's allowing customers to cancel flights for no extra fee and is giving travel credits. That's what this Alberta dog trainer says she was offered. But with an upcoming competition in Quebec, she has few options.
It was going to be an extra $1,500 per person in my group that's flying, and then the dog fees on top of it.
It's a repeat of last summer when Air Canada flight attendants walked off the job. Hours later, the federal government forced them back to work. Those striking union members ended up defying that order. The Jobs and Families Minister would not say whether she'll intervene again.
The parties are at the table right now, and Canadians expect them to stay at that table and get a deal. The best deals are the ones that the parties arrive at together.
Until we have a sort of industry standard or a new industry standard that changes the credit hour or flight hour system that flight attendants work under, you're going to see this issue continue to reoccur.
The union insists it's trying to avoid a disruption. But with the current stalemate, WestJet is urging passengers to check for canceled flights before heading to the airport. Sarah?
Touria Izri at Montreal Trudeau International Airport tonight. Thanks, Touria. Spanish officials say at least 57 people have now died trying to reach its North African territory of Ceuta. They were among some 60,000 people who arrived there from Morocco over the past day, most of them swimming or arriving by boat. The majority have since returned to Morocco, but the images of thousands of people overwhelming Spanish authorities are already causing some waves. Redmond Shannon reports.
A second day of migrants making their way into Ceuta. Again, mostly by sea. But also some attempts by land. This, though, nothing compared to Thursday, when tens of thousands arrived from Morocco, seemingly all at once. It appears as though the sudden rush was triggered by what some migrants say was a rumour the border had opened. Possibly fuelled by a recent Spanish court ruling that migrants intercepted at sea cannot be instantly returned.
People were then led to believe that this is in a way a loophole, or it gives rise to a new occasion for them to try and enter into Spanish territory.
It's unclear whether authorities on the Moroccan side of the border were overwhelmed or underprepared. Nonetheless, getting to Ceuta is not a simple ticket into the European Union. The Spanish territories of Ceuta and Melilla may be the EU's only land borders with Africa, but they are not part of Europe's free travel Schengen area. And most Moroccans can be returned, as Morocco is legally regarded as a safe country. Spain's Prime Minister arrived in the enclave to salutes and to jeers from incensed locals. He described the incident as an attack on Spain, blaming criminal human smugglers. But admitting Spain needs to look at how it manages the border. On the streets of tiny Ceuta, reality hit for those who ran the gauntlet. This man says he hasn't eaten for a day and he's heading home. Spain says the vast majority of those who arrived Thursday have now done the same. Dozens, though, never even made it into Ceuta, drowned or crushed in the desperate search for a better life. Redmond Shannon Global News, London.
U.S. President Donald Trump is hailing the first achievement of his Board of Peace, reaching a deal with Hamas to disarm. But in return, the Israeli military must withdraw from Gaza. In a post on X, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney called the proposed agreement a step towards peace and security, noting Canada remains committed to a just and lasting resolution to the conflict based on a two-state solution. But as Jackson Prosco reports, while Trump insists the plan is a great breakthrough, there are still many hurdles in the way of making it happen.
In Gaza, the 9-month-old ceasefire with Israel has rarely felt peaceful. In the rubble and devastation, there is little optimism about a supposed deal to disarm Hamas in exchange for Israel's withdrawal. What we hear is only talk, says this man. Many Israelis are just as skeptical.
It's a kind of a lie that you tell to yourself so you can sleep better at night.
It's a very complex situation over there.
But U.S. President Donald Trump insists his pay-to-play Board of Peace has achieved an agreement that will see Hamas give up its weapons, turn over maps of its tunnels, and cede control of Gaza to a technocratic government.
If you go 4 months ago, 5 months ago, a deal like that would have been impossible. So it's a big step for the Middle East. And people are really impressed by it, and they're surprised.
And even with the current announcement of the past 24 hours, there's still very little sign that the board has actually achieved anything on the ground.
The two sides have strict conditions. Hamas says the deal is contingent on Israel ending military operations and allowing humanitarian aid in. Top Israeli officials have said the deal is unacceptable and that Israel will not withdraw from its Yellow Line military zone until there is genuine disarmament of Hamas.
The situation is not static. It is accumulating and getting worse for people on the ground, and they're kind of trapped in this humanitarian purgatory.
Still, U.S. officials insist it's a new chapter in a conflict that was triggered by Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Nearly 3 years later, an end may finally be in sight. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
The United States' war with Iran may be costing commuters out of pocket at the pumps, but no surprise, oil and gas companies are reaping the benefits. ExxonMobil reported today that it doubled its profits in the second quarter to $14.5 billion. Chevron, also based in Houston, nearly quadrupled its profits to $12 billion. And here in Canada, 3 Calgary-based companies, Enbridge, TC Energy, and Pembina Pipeline, have all reported higher quarterly profits. Canada's economy overall is showing more signs of strength. GDP rose by 0.3% in May, led by the mining and oil and gas sectors, as well as a bump in real estate sales in Ontario and BC. Stats Canada is now projecting 3.4% annualized growth in the second quarter. That would be the strongest quarterly growth in 3 years, and a significant bump from the prior 2 quarters, when the economy was in a technical recession. Canada is imposing a temporary 25% tariff on imports of wood cabinets and vanities, part of a probe into whether domestic producers are being threatened by harmful practices in the global market. The tariffs will be in place for a maximum of 200 days as the Canadian International Trade Tribunal investigates. They're expected to report their findings in January, and if no harm is found, the duties will be dropped. The U.S., Mexico, Chile, Israel, and developing nations will all be exempt from the tariffs. After fierce backlash and a sweeping boycott by member nations, FIFA's President Gianni Infantino has backed down on plans to partially privatize the organization for big profit. One of his senior advisors had already resigned as part of a growing revolt that escaped Infantino's grasp and called the future of his presidency into question. Mike Armstrong reports.
It's only been 12 days since Gianni Infantino handed the World Cup trophy to Spain. Most predicted an uncontested re-election for the FIFA president this coming March. Well, that's starting to seem less certain. The backlash against the plan he unveiled earlier this week is growing, and now some of the fiercest criticism is coming from inside FIFA itself.
From the king.
Friday, 2 of Infantino's lieutenants broke ranks. Senior advisor Carlos Cordero resigned, calling the plan a bad deal for football, while FIFA's chief operating officer said staff was deceived about the plan, and if speaking out costs him his job, at least he'll be able to sleep well. What is becoming increasingly clear is that a massive change for FIFA and soccer around the world caught the community by surprise. Norway's Football Association president says they'd heard nothing about it until this week, and in fact haven't found a single person who did.
Did FIFA or Mr. Infantino speak to you about their proposal to sell a stake in the World Cup?
No, I never spoke to him. In a statement Friday, FIFA insisted nobody is selling football and blamed what it calls incorrect media reports for disrupting the consultation process. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
And a secondary statement sent out late today attributed to Infantino confirms those contentious plans have now been scrapped, saying the organization took the criticism into account and, having listened carefully to all the views, it has become clear that the project has created divisions, adding our purpose has always been and will always be to unite and improve. As a result, this proposal will not proceed. Police in Arizona have released a pair of ransom notes central to the high-profile disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. The first note, addressed to NBC's Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, demanded $4 million in Bitcoin for her mother's safe return. But the second note says, quote, "We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken." It goes on to say she is buried in nature now. It's been 6 months since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her Tucson home. Authorities are releasing the letters now in hopes that somebody might recognize the writing style. American artificial intelligence company Anthropic says some of its Claude AI models hacked into 3 companies during cybersecurity tests. The company says it discovered the breaches after it reviewed more than 140,000 of its evaluation runs and discovered the incidents. Anthropic says it has contacted the impacted organizations. The disclosure comes days after ChatGPT maker OpenAI said one of their models went rogue during an evaluation and hacked another company. According to Reuters, the company says they have discovered more rogue AI agents have escaped containment. Automaker Stellantis has issued a recall for 1.5 million of its Ram pickup trucks worldwide over a seatbelt issue. The recall affects the 2019 to 2026 models of the Ram 1500. The vehicle's seatbelt buckles on its second row driver's side and center seats may not have been attached properly. Stellantis says it is aware of at least one injury that's potentially linked to the problem. The struggle to contain stray dog populations on reserves across Canada. Coming up, the complex issue and what some say could be the solution. Dog rescue groups are calling for action after a volunteer was fatally mauled on a Manitoba First Nation while caring for strays. It comes 2 years after dozens of agencies declared a state of emergency centered on out-of-control dog populations in many communities. As Melissa Ridgen reports, while some progress has been made, there's no quick fix.
Amanda Nobis dedicated her life to the animals known as res dogs.
and it cost her her life. Nobis was killed on the Sandy Bay First Nation earlier this month while feeding strays.
We're hoping that creates and lights a fire to carry people and to continue talking about it and to continue advocating for change, because it can't stop now. Otherwise, this will happen again and again.
Rescue groups have long struggled to help First Nations with out-of-control dog populations. These advocates know it's even worse for those living there.
This is an issue that they face day in and day out their entire lives.
The National Institutes of Health database shows as many as 63% of those living in northern Indigenous communities have suffered dog bites. Save Res Dogs founder Leah Arcand is pushing the Assembly of First Nations to develop a national animal control strategy.
We've normalized relying on rescues and volunteers to fill gaps left by governments and institutions. Rescues should be there for emergencies, not as the foundation of dog management for First Nations communities.
Communities, though, say they struggle with resources to care for band members. Never mind spaying and neutering pets, and other vet care and feeding of dogs. Animal advocates at this No More Mauling rally want governments to support community-led plans.
Leaders in First Nation communities, as well as government provincially and federally. This is a Canadian problem.
Manitoba Rescues declared a state of emergency 2 years ago, asking the province for $2.5 million for a massive spay and neuter campaign. Winnipeg Humane Society got a funding boost, but that didn't help First Nations. Advocates hope Amanda Nobis's death spurs all governments to finally act. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
A British funeral director has been sentenced to 20 years in prison over dozens of offenses spanning 12 years, linked to the mishandling of remains at his funeral home. Robert Bush's crimes include giving the wrong cremated ashes to families and leaving the remains of dozens of people neglected in storage for years. Police say bodies were found uncovered and in various states of decomposition at his funeral home. Bush also defrauded people of more than £500,000 British pounds. More than 200 victims delivered powerful impact statements over 5 days of sentencing hearings. An urgent call ahead why Canadian Blood Services needs people to roll up their sleeves and donate this long weekend. We know blood donations play a pivotal role in life-saving medical procedures, but Canadian Blood Services says the country now desperately needs more of it. Catherine Dornian on why national reserves are suddenly running low this summer.
Robert Loisel started giving blood nearly 60 years ago. He started after his mother was in a serious car accident and needed surgery on her spine.
Had she not received the blood for her surgery, she probably wouldn't have been with us, but blood saved her.
He's now donated over 300 times, hoping to give others the same chance at life that his mother was given. At one appointment years ago, that was confirmed for him.
There was an infant who was having surgery that day and needed my blood type. And that made it even better if I could perhaps save somebody. And I just feel so good when I'm doing that.
Since June 1st, the national blood supply has dropped by 20%. Canadian Blood Services needs 18,000 appointments per week to keep meeting patient needs. They expect donations to drop in the summer, but this has been a steeper drop than normal. They say they need to reverse the trend as quickly as possible, especially since demand for blood also rises this time of year.
More folks are on the roads, which unfortunately means an increase in car accidents. For example, a car accident victim could use up to 50 units of blood. That means 50 different people may need to donate for one car crash victim.
Community Development Manager Brett Lawrence encourages anyone who has never donated to try it. Men can donate every 56 days, women every 84 days, and each donation takes about an hour. He says most people over 17 and in good general health will be eligible.
You can review your eligibility at blood.ca. We have a quick 2-minute eligibility quiz to go over, some basic eligibility from medications to travel history.
Saying it's a chance to directly help someone who needs it, something Robert is still committed to doing.
As long as I've got health to be able to continue to donate, I will do that.
Catherine Dornian, Global News.
Next, goodbye to a beloved Bruin in British Columbia. He was an unconventional icon and at the same time so fitting for the West Coast. One of two orphan grizzly bears who spent their lives living on Grouse Mountain in North Vancouver died today after more than 2 decades of delighting and inspiring British Columbians and tourists alike. He first captured the hearts of British Columbia in 2001. Back then, Grinder was just a baby Bruin, found orphaned in Invermere. He soon found a home on the North Shore, where alongside fellow rescue Kula, he drew admirers from all over the world to the top of a mountain for more than 2 decades.
He had a cheeky personality.
On Friday, one of Grouse Mountain's beloved resident grizzlies died after living in a unique slopeside sanctuary for a remarkable 25 years, longer than most grizzlies reach in the wild. Few will feel the loss deeper than veterinarian Ken McQuiston, who cared for both bears from infancy.
Grinder was special because literally millions of people got as close as me and you to see him.
It'll be a big adjustment, too, for lifelong companion Kula, who remains in good health and was given space to say goodbye to Grinder's body, a process thought to help animals recognize profound loss.
We let Kula come over and say hello, and the two of them vocalized. Once Grinder was sedated, Kula was allowed to have nose contact with him. We opened up the door between them. And then once Grinder had passed away, we fully opened up the door and we all departed, and we left Grinder and Kula to themselves.
This loss felt by an entire province, now grieving a grizzly that became a staple in the lives of so many in such an unexpected way, and now leaves a void as big as his legacy as an ambassador for wildlife conservation and education.
When you have any sort of companion for 25 years, it's a hard go when it's their time. So it's been emotional.
As Grinder leaves us all with one last lesson in saying goodbye. And that is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Sarah McDonald. Tonight's Your Canada is the Celtic Resort in Ingonish Beach, Nova Scotia. We love seeing your Canada. Please email your pictures to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.